Hello to my friend Guy Liston, and I know we've been download video for quite a while, and then we've been talking about what's going on the wall all the time, talking about what's going on the wall, but it's something to me. Thing is get out of control. Thing is not the same way it used to be. Thing could get worse than what is it what now, and then therefore we're gonna start see like more videos coming out, but we gotta be careful with the video we doing right now because and if you try to do things like talking about Ukraine or what happened in Hamas and Israel, you can get in trouble with YouTube. We don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, so we got to be careful with it. So let's go
So
back.
Biden may be on Israel's side, but not everyone in the West is convinced. In fact, his own staff is not convinced. This is Josh Paul. He works for the US State Department, or shall I say used to work for the US State Department. Paul worked the same job for 11 years, overseeing global arms transfers for the US. But yesterday he had enough. He resigned from his job. Do you know why? Because he did not agree with Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. And he's not the only one. In Spain, a minister has spoken up. She wants Madrid to suspend relations with Israel. Our next report tells you why the West is increasingly divided on Israel.
On October 18th, US President Joe Biden landed in Israel. He hugged the Israeli Prime Minister. He promised support to Israel. Basically, Biden's visit was all about solidarity. When the attack happened, Biden said America has Israel's back, and he walked the talk in Tel Aviv.
I wanted to be here today.
So we know how Biden feels about Israel. But does his staff feel the same? Not really. A US State Department official's resignation letter echoes that emotion. It's a really long letter. But if there's one thing you should read from it, it's this, and I quote, "We cannot be both against occupation and for it. We cannot be both for freedom and against it. And we cannot be for a better world while contributing to one that's materially worse." Strong words right there. And many in Biden's administration echo this emotion. Biden has the most diverse White House staff in history.
Okay, so I hope everybody's listening and see what's going on. To me, I think what we see right now it's just the beginning of what could be happening. And I believe US or as number one country in the world, US, when you say US, you say Israel. When you say Israel, you say US. I understand that. But I don't think they should be careful. And then it could be getting a little bit tougher. We don't want to say anything. Let's listen, guys.
And most have reservations about how this conflict is being handled. They may not be saying it aloud, but they feel stifled when it comes to discussing what's happening in Gaza. Several staffers across multiple agencies have raised concern. Some want to question Israel's conduct, but fear the backlash. The Biden administration isn't the only one that's divided. The Spanish government too is torn. Its social rights minister wants Madrid to suspend ties with Israel.
Today I have asked our partner, the Socialist Party, that we take ourselves more seriously in the fight against this planned genocide, which is being carried out by Israel against the Palestinian people. To do this, I believe that we should urgently suspend diplomatic relations with the State of Israel. In addition, we should promote a debate at the European level in order to apply exemplary economic sanctions against those politically responsible for this genocide.
Now this Spanish minister's comments are very significant. You see, the West is trying to show a united front. At least the Quint is trying to show it. That's the US, Germany, France, Italy, and the UK. They're called the Quint. Biden, Sunak, and Scholz have already visited Israel. Macron plans to do it in the coming days. So they may be united, but when it comes to the rest of the West, they are divided on this. Last year,
allow
This
any
is South-
of the teams, any of
This
our
is South
people
Africa.
to go and participate in sporting activities or festivals or anything of that sort in Israel that has stolen and continues to kill and oppress the people of Palestine. So we're not downsizing. We're going to withdraw our embassy from Israel and we're going to chase away the Israeli embassy in South Africa. If we can't do that, then our solidarity with the Palestinians is a lip service. We need action, and not only with regard to embassy and cultural activities, including economic activities. We ought to cut ties with Israel. There won't be an Israeli embassy under the EFF until human rights are respected in Palestine. We are beneficiaries of international solidarity. We will not allow.
See, that's what we're talking about, guys. And I don't think we need this. I don't think the world needs this. The world needs peace, friendship, partnership, business, everything. That's all we need. We don't need war. So, reason why we does that, I want to make sure everybody see what's going on in the world right now. So we brought it to you, and I hope you subscribe, like, and show support to the video, guys. So that everything's coming off, so we show everything. So I hope you guys understand that. And we don't need fight. We need the peace. The world needs peace. And last week I was listening to the former President Donald Trump. He said we need Jesus. The world needs Jesus. The world needs help. I believe what he said is the truth. The world needs help. The world needs peace, not a fight. We need peace. We need to make sure every country have peace. Work, job, school, everything. That's what we need. We don't need fight. I hope that'll stop, and I hope things getting better anytime soon. Listen, this is the United States President, and then we're going to listen to what he said and everything he said. But I think things should be a little bit better. We should work things out a little bit better. Let's listen to him.
Recent terrorist assault on the people of this nation has left a deep wound. More than 1,300 innocent Israelis killed, including at least 31 American citizens by the terrorist group Hamas. Hundreds of young people at a music festival.
We don't need
The
that.
festival was for peace.
Yeah, as I agree with the president. We need peace, not fight. We need peace, and I understand that. That's what we need.
Massacre, rape, beheadings, bodies burned alive. Hamas committed atrocities that recall the worst ravages of ISIS, unleashing pure, unadulterated evil upon the world. There's no rationalizing it, no excusing it, period. The brutality we saw would have cut deep anywhere in the world, but it cuts deeper here in Israel. October 7th, which was a sacred Jewish holiday, became the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. It has brought to the surface painful memories and scars left by millennia of anti-Semitism and the genocide of the Jewish people. The world watched then, it knew.
Yeah, we gotta respect that. President Biden, and I believe, and he know what he talking about, and I believe he know politics well, guy. He's got the whole life, and then now he's at about 70 something plus year, and then he know what could get done, and if you want to make it done, he could make it done. And then I hope President Biden and he's do what is right for the war. We don't need war. That's not what we need. Like the former president say again, we need Jesus, we need peace, not fight. Let's listen to it, guys.
Those who are grieving, a child, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend. I know you feel like there's that black hole in the middle of your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it. The survivor's remorse, the anger, the questions of faith in your soul. Starting at staring at that empty chair, sitting Shiva. First Sabbath without them. They're the everyday things, the small things that you miss the most. The scent when you open the closet door. Morning coffee we shared together. The bend of his smile, the perfect pitch of her laugh. The giggle of your little boy, the baby.
I agree with you, President.
For those who have lost loved ones, this is what I know. They'll never be truly gone. There's something that's never fully lost. Your love for them and their love for you. And I promise you'll be walking along some days and say, what would she or he want me to do? You smile when you pass a place that reminds you of them. That's when you know. When a smile comes to your lips before a tear to your eye, that's when you know you're going to fully make it. Soldiers running into danger once again, civilian medics flying across rescue missions, and off-duty medics at the music festival caring for the wounded before becoming the victim himself. Volunteers retrieving bodies of the dead so families could bury their loved ones in accordance with Jewish tradition. Reservists leaving behind their families, their honeymoons, their studies abroad without hesitation, and so much more. The state of Israel was born to be a safe place for the Jewish people of the world. That's why I was born. Long said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to invent it. While it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people. And I promise you, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it will be. 75 years ago, just 11 minutes after its founding, President Harry S. Truman and the United States of America became the first nation to recognize Israel. We stood by your side ever since. Make sure you have what you need to protect your people, to defend your nation. For decades, we've ensured Israel's qualitative military edge. And later this week, I'm going to ask the United States Congress for unprecedented forward carrier strike group in the Eastern Mediterranean, with the USS Eisenhower on the way to defer further aggression against Israel and to prevent this conflict from spreading. The world will know that Israel is stronger than ever. My message to any state or any other hostile actor thinking about attacking Israel remains the same as it was a week ago. Don't. Since this terrorist attack took place, we've seen it described as Israel's 9/11. Well, for a nation the size of Israel, it was like 15 9/11s. The scale may be different, but I'm sure those horrors have tapped into some kind of primal feeling in Israel, just like it did and felt in the United States. Shock, pain, rage, an all-consuming rage. I understand, and many Americans understand. You can't look at what has happened here to your mothers, your fathers, your grandparents, sons, daughters, children, even babies, and not scream out for justice. Justice must be done. But I caution this: while you feel that rage, don't be consumed by it. After 9/11, we were enraged in the United States. While we sought justice and got justice, we also made mistakes. I'm the first U.S. president to visit Israel in time of war. I've made wartime decisions. I know the choices are never clear or easy for the leadership. There's always cost. It requires being deliberate. It requires asking very hard questions. It requires clarity about the objectives and an honest assessment about whether the path you're on will achieve those objectives. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. Hamas does not represent Palestinian people. Hamas uses innocent families in Gaza as human shields putting their command centers, their weapons, their communications tunnels in residential areas. Palestinian people are suffering greatly as well. We mourn the loss of innocent Palestinian lives like the entire world. I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we've seen to date, it appears a result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza. The United States,
I believe everything he say is kind of sad. We don't want to see people get that. We don't want to see people go down like this. We don't need that. We're all human beings, and I think the people who does what they does in the world, they need to think about people's life. We don't create anybody. God does. But why would you try to take off people's life like that? I think it's not fair. I mean, it's not fair for both sides, either Israel or Hamas or Palestine, whatever you call that. But I think it's not fair. But please, the world leader, we need peace. We don't need war. We need peace. No war every day. That's all the world needs. People need to travel. People need to go everywhere. Visit Israel, visit Hamas, whatever they want to visit. That's all we need. We need to go all over the world and visit. That's all people need. They don't need no fight every day. Let's listen to the president.
we're working in close cooperation with the government of Egypt, the United Nations, and its agencies like the World Food Program and other partners in the region to get trucks moving across the border as soon as possible. Separately, I ask Israel that the global community demand that the International Red Cross be able to visit hostages. I just demanded that the United States fully supports. Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank. This money will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians, including emergency needs in Gaza. You are a Jewish state. You are a Jewish state, but you're also a democracy. Unlike the United States, you don't live by the rules of terrorists. You live by the rule of law. And when conflicts flare, you live by the law of wars. What sets us apart from the terrorists is we believe in the fundamental dignity of every human life. Israeli, Palestinian, Arab, Jew, Muslim, Christian, everyone. You can't give up what makes you who you are. If you give that up, then...
See, I understand the President of the United States, this is Mr. Joe Biden, and I understand he still call out support for Hamas, or I think so, Hamas, and this, everybody live there, not everybody's do the same thing. What happened is not affect everybody. I understand that he's like talking about $100 million for Palestine and Hamas and to support them. He call out support for the whole world, and I think that's fair enough. I think that's all we need. We don't need understand that he don't support only Israel, but he do support Hamas and Palestine also. $100 million to move around for them support for Hamas and Palestine. And he said not everybody in Palestine involved in what happened, not everybody in Israel involved in what happened. And I think he try to be fair, guys. So that's like, you gotta look at it that way. He try to be fair, and then let's listen.
We get back up again and we begin anew. And second, when we're faced with tragedy and loss, we must go back to the beginning and remember who we are. We are all human beings, created in the image of God with dignity, humanity, and purpose. In the darkness, to be the light unto the world is what we're about. You inspire hope and light for so many around the world. That's what the terrorists seek to destroy. That's what they seek to destroy. Because they live in darkness. But not you, not Israel. Nations of conscience like the United States and Israel are not measured solely by the example or power. We're measured by the power of our example. That's why, as hard as it is, we must keep pursuing peace. We must keep pursuing a path so that Israel and the Palestinian people can both live safely, in security, in dignity, and in peace. For me, that means a two-state solution. We must keep working for Israel's greater integration with its neighbors. These attacks have only strengthened my commitment and determination and my will to get that done. I'm here to tell you
That's great.
the terrorists will not win. Freedom will win. So let me end where I began. Israel, you're not alone. The United States stands with you. I've told the story before, and I'll tell it again, of my first meeting with an Israeli prime minister 50 years ago as a young senator. I was sitting across from Golda Meir at her desk in her office. And she had a guy who later became prime minister, sitting next to me, just before the 1973 Yom Kippur War. And she flipped the maps up and down, telling me how bad things were and how terrible they were. All of a sudden, she looked at me, she said, "Morning, I returned from Israel. They tell me I'm the first American president to travel there during the war. I met with the prime minister and members of his cabinet. And most movingly, I met with Israelis who had personally lived through horrific horror of the attack by Hamas on the 7th of October. More than 1,300 people slaughtered in Israel, including at least 32 American citizens. Scores of innocents, from infants to the elderly grandparents. Israelis, Americans taken hostage. We're pursuing every avenue to bring their loved ones home. As president, there is no higher priority for me than the safety of Americans held hostage. The terrorist group Hamas unleashed pure, unadulterated evil in the world. But sadly, the Jewish people know perhaps better than anyone that there is no limit to the depravity of people when they want to inflict pain on others. In Israel, I saw people who are strong, determined, resilient, and also angry, in shock and in deep, deep pain. I also spoke with President Abbas, the Palestinian Authority, and reiterated that the United States remains committed to the Palestinian people's right to dignity and to self-determination. The actions of Hamas terrorists don't take that right away. Like so many other, I'm heartbroken by the tragic loss of Palestinian life, including the explosion at the hospital in Gaza, which was not done by the Israelis. We mourn every innocent life lost. We can't ignore the humanity of innocent Palestinians who only want to live in peace and have an opportunity. You know.
Okay, the president say what happened in Palestine, the hospital. It is not Israel does it. It is not the Palestine does it. He said the terror does it. Okay, that's all we can say, guys. We can say nothing more than that, and we don't know. We don't know. That's all we heard, and everybody see what happened in the hospital, and that's all we heard. But they say it's not Israel doesn't do it, and Palestine doesn't do it neither. What he say, the Hamas terrorist does it. All right.
Front conflict. The question on everyone's mind is this: will Hezbollah join the war, especially after today's events?
Before this meeting, I had the chance to meet separately with Prime Minister Najib Mikati and also Syed Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah.
You heard him. Iran's foreign minister is in Lebanon. He met with the Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, and both leaders shared words of warning. First, a bit of background. Hezbollah is a militant organization based in Lebanon and an active player in the region. Like Hamas, they're seen as an Iranian proxy. They're fostered and funded by Iran. Like Hamas, they also double up as a political party, and they're also a sworn enemy of Israel. But here's the difference. Hezbollah is a far more powerful player than Hamas, and its focus is not just on Israel. It's a much bigger player in West Asian politics, and it has far more experience of real battle. So it's understandable that Israelis are on their guard, but so far Hezbollah has been relatively quiet, almost too quiet, you could say, especially considering this.
But that I understand what you say, but that's not what we want. We don't want a fight, a war. We need peace. That's why the President Biden just saying we need a peace. We don't need a war. And they need to find a way to stop it before it's too late. That's it. It's not good for the world, guy. It could be touch any country in the world, any country can get in trouble. It's not good for the world. And peace. That's all we're looking for, peace.
And this statement was a mix of posturing and a show of solidarity. But Hezbollah has not joined the war yet. There have been minor incidents of cross-border fire. Some militants from Lebanon have been killed. 2 were neutralized while trying to infiltrate Israel's northern border. 3 members of Hezbollah were killed due to Israeli shelling. Both these incidents took place on Monday. On Tuesday, their funerals took place, rallies and protests were held, again more posturing but no invasion. Instead, there's been a continuation of cross-border shelling, artillery and rocket fire, but no Israeli casualties yet. Now, part of this is, of course, because of the threat of retaliation and memories of the last war. That was in the year 2006. Hezbollah fought Israel in the year 2006, and the casualties were overwhelmingly from Lebanon. More than 1,100 Lebanese people were killed there. What about the Israelis? 55 deaths. So there was a massive power imbalance. And the types of missiles have evolved as well. Earlier, they reportedly had Soviet-era rockets. Today, they have precision-guided missiles. And this is courtesy their participation in the civil war in Syria. Hezbollah has been fighting alongside Iran and Russia in Syria. They're fighting on behalf of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The group has picked up weapons and valuable combat experience in Syria. They're also used to urban warfare. It makes them dangerous in the event of a ground assault on Israel. Then there are the numbers. Hezbollah boasts of around 100,000 fighters. For context, the Hamas attack on Saturday was conducted by hundreds. The sheer number of fighters makes Hezbollah more dangerous, and Israel knows this. It has been flexing its military might as a warning. Since the Hamas war began, Israel has sent troops north as well. Thousands of reservists are at the border with Lebanon, and tanks have been lined up along the 81-kilometer boundary. Israel has also been issuing threats. It has said that it will bomb Lebanon back to the Stone Age if Hezbollah attacks. It has promised to use overwhelming force. So obviously, Hezbollah will be wary. And to add to all of this, the presence of the Americans can be daunting. You know, the US has deployed its most advanced aircraft carrier in the region, the USS Gerald Ford. Reports say another carrier is on its way. American jets are at the ready in all US bases in West Asia. All of this is meant to get Israel's enemies to back down.
20 to 400 nuclear warheads. Israel has never openly confirmed or denied its possession of nuclear weapons. Its army has about 187,000 military personnel, over 3,000 tanks, about 140 rocket systems, 900 anti-tank weapons, 200 anti-aircraft weapons, and over 600 self-propelled guns. Israeli military has targeted tunnels in northwestern Gaza. These tunnels act as an outpost for Hamas, who use it as storage and transportation portals. Reports say Israel has been bombing these tunnels by deploying a powerful type of bomb known as bunker busters. In general, the Israeli military is high-tech and innovative. Plus, it isn't alone. The US is supplying weapons to Israel. This is in response to Israeli officials' urgent requests for aid. Last Sunday, the Pentagon announced that ammunitions will be sent to Israel, and now reports say the plan is already in action. The US has ordered aircraft.
Yeah, but that's not what we need. And I understand Israel have the right to defend itself. If you attack them, they have to attack you back. I understand that, but we don't need that. We don't need that. US need to back off and find a way, find a solution. Not a fight, not war. War not going to take us anywhere on the war. So we need to be careful with that. We don't need that. We don't need war. We need peace. Let's listen, guys. Let's listen.
And right now it is sailing to the eastern Mediterranean. Do you know why? As a show of support to Israel. When Hamas attacked Israel on Saturday, the United States jumped into action. It condemned the attack and it offered its quote-unquote rock-solid and unwavering support.
The people of Israel are under attack, orchestrated by a terrorist organization, Hamas. In this moment of tragedy, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere that the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back.
The US will always have Israel's back. That was President Joe Biden's promise. An hours later, Washington delivered. It ordered its aircraft carrier to move to the region. The fleet was already in the Mediterranean, so it did not have to go very far. The US is also sending fighter jets as a show of force, a show of support. That's a lot of posturing. And it reflects America's fears. It is worried about this war spreading into the region. It is worried about a bigger conflict in West Asia. That said, Israel is also America's biggest ally in the region. There may be political tensions between the two leaders, Netanyahu and Biden. Biden may not be happy with Benjamin Netanyahu and how he's conducting his affairs, or his extreme far-right government, as it's called. He may not have invited him to the White House in December, but that has never stopped US aid to Israel. Washington gives $3.8 billion of military aid to Israel every year. And with this war, it's likely to increase. Biden has already promised military assistance to Israel. And what this aid would look like is still being worked out. But of course, it won't be US boots on the ground just yet. There will be a lot of military machinery like air defense and munitions. The Pentagon has already fast-tracked.
We're able to manage to get the orders, direct orders off of these Hamas terrorists, and they have very clear and simple orders. Hunt and kill everything that moves. And it's just cold-blooded hatred.
The threat here is so high, Israel has imposed a closed military zone all along the Gaza border. Sirens wail,
meaning that most of their law enforcement encounters happen with local police.
In Minneapolis, a city that became the center of a global racial reckoning after the murder of George Floyd, police interactions with communities of color remain under intense scrutiny. In June, the Department of Justice released its investigation into the Minneapolis police, launched after Floyd's killing. Among its findings, MPD unlawfully discriminates against Black and Native American people. Officers stop Native residents at almost 8 times the rate they stop white people. During those stops, Native people are at least 20% more likely to face searches or use of force. And the disparities were worse in Minneapolis' 3rd precinct, where George Floyd was murdered by.
Secretary Austin recently directed several steps to strengthen DoD posture in the region to bolster regional deterrence efforts, to include deploying the USS Ford Carrier Strike Group to the Eastern Mediterranean, along with the USS Eisenhower, currently underway and en route. Additionally, we are also enhancing our fighter aircraft presence in the Central Command region to provide additional capabilities. By posturing these U.S. naval assets and advanced fighter aircraft in the region, we aim to send a strong message intended to deter a wider conflict, to bolster regional stability, and of course to make it clear that we will protect and defend our national security interests. To that end, the crew of the guided missile destroyer USS Carney, operating in the northern Red Sea earlier today, shot down 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones that were launched by Houthi forces in Yemen. This action was a demonstration of the integrated air and missile defense architecture that we have built in the Middle East, and that we are prepared to utilize whenever necessary to protect our partners and our interests in this important region. There were no casualties to U.S. forces, and none that we know of to any civilians on the ground. Information about these engagements is still being processed. We cannot say for certain what these missiles and drones were targeting, but they were launched from Yemen, heading north along the Red Sea, potentially towards targets in Israel. Our defensive response was one that we would have taken for any similar threat in the region, where we're able to do so against our interest personnel and our partners. This attack may be ongoing, so if we have more information to share, we will. But again, as the Secretary has made clear, we have the capability to defend our broader interests in the region and to deter regional escalation and broader expansion of the conflict that began with Hamas's attack on Israeli civilians on October 7th, and the other potential threats. And while I'm on the
So we've been talking about, everybody been talking about we could be in World War III. Everybody keeps saying we could be in World War III, World War III, World War III. And but between what happened in Israel and Hamas, and I think they had to find a way to make peace. And if they don't, it could get a little bit worse. And then what we have able to expect, that's what we're able to see what now. It could get worse than that. Let's listen to agoThe, whatever you call that. I don't know his name.
Though no attack occurred, sadly, a U.S. civilian contractor suffered a cardiac episode while sheltering and passed away shortly thereafter. And our deepest sympathies and condolences are with the loved ones of the individual who passed away. And as you know, the day before, on October 17th, U.S. military forces defended against 3 drones near U.S. and coalition forces in Iraq. In western Iraq, at al-Assad Air Base, U.S. forces engaged 2 drones, destroying one and damaging the second, resulting in minor injuries to coalition forces. Separately, in northern Iraq, U.S. forces engaged and destroyed a drone near Bashir Air Base, resulting in no injuries or damage. And while I'm not going to forecast any potential response to these attacks, I will say that we will take all necessary actions to defend U.S. and coalition forces against any threat. Any response, should one occur, will come at a time and a manner of our choosing. Now, in light of all of this,
the way I see it, guy, it looks like the world, I see that all the time, the world is upside down, right? That's the way I see it. And then everybody hear what he just said. Something happened in Iraq, something happened in Yemen, something happened everywhere in the world. Guy, if they don't try to stop it, it could get worse. Before it's too late, the world leader need to come up with something, do something.
Spoke with Israeli Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant just a few moments ago. And during these calls, he reiterated U.S. support for Israel's right to defend itself from terrorist attacks, and also underscored the importance of safeguarding innocent civilians, both Palestinian and Israeli. He emphasized again that any country or any group thinking about trying to take advantage of the situation in Israel to try to widen the conflict should think twice and not doubt the resolve of the United States. It is our aim to avoid any regional expansion of Israel's conflict with Hamas, but we stand ready and prepared to protect and defend our partners and our interests, and we will act to do so. Readouts of these calls will be posted to the DoD website later today. And with respect to U.S. support to Israel, the first shipments of military aid, including munitions, began arriving in Israel last week and continue to arrive on a near daily basis.
So what happened is, there's a fight in now Israel, Hamas, and now you have Ukraine and Russia. So, like I said before, what next? Where, and where? Where and where? Please.
The United States has in country have been quickly provided to Israel. And in the days ahead, we'll be flowing additional Iron Dome interceptors so that Israel has the capabilities they need to sustain their Iron Dome defense systems and protect their citizens and cities that reinforce the United States' unwavering and ironclad support for both the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli people. As always, the Department of Defense will continue to support, plan, and undertake these critical missions professionally and with the inherent right to protect our force. And with that, I will be happy to take your questions. We'll start with AP Tarakat.
Thank you, General Ryder. Could you also talk about, apparently there's a new round of attacks at al-Assad that is occurring either now or has happened today. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, thanks, Tara. I've seen some reporting on that. I don't have any details to provide right now, but certainly as more information becomes available, we'll pass that along.
And then more generally, as this violence has upticked since the hospital bombing, what protection measures are you taking, particularly like for the forces in Entente, where there's been so much activity over the years as fighters have tried to move weapons and people toward Hezbollah?
Yeah, certainly we take force protection extremely seriously, and we will continue to do so. I'm not going to get into specific.
In Poland, the ruling wing, right-wing party, Law and Justice Party, could lose majority. The Liberal opposition is already claiming victory. This is led by Donald Tusk, a former chief of the European Union, this party. The Polish election saw the highest turnout since the fall of communism. After China, Russia suspends Japanese seafood imports. It comes after Tokyo's release of Fukushima nuclear plant wastewater. Japan insists that the wastewater is safe and treated, but countries like China cite lack of nuclear wastewater data. Australia fines X, formerly Twitter, for failing to crack down on child abuse content. Canberra has issued a fine of more than $380,000 for not cooperating with the investigation. Last year, Elon Musk had said that removing child exploitation was his top priority, but X has failed to tackle it. And it's official, cricket will return to the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. Cricket was last played in the 1900 Olympics in Paris. The decision to include the game in its T20 format was announced in India. This will mark its return to the games after 128 years.
join the USS Gerald R. Ford that's already stationed there. How deadly are both carriers? Let's take a look. The USS Gerald R. Ford carries 4 FA-18 Super Hornet fighter squadrons. That's about 40 Super Hornets. The Eisenhower has a similar number of FA-18s. These combat jets are outfitted with...
Your 6th term as Prime Minister, what do you need to accomplish for the future of Israel and on behalf of the state?
Well, the first 3 things are easy. Block Iran, block Iran, block Iran. To survive here, you have to be strong. The strong survive. The weak don't. They perish. The strong are the ones that people make peace with. You don't make peace with the weak, you make peace with the strong.
Born to a generation of Holocaust survivors during the infancy of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, or Bibi as he is more affectionately known, was raised in a home of significant faith and family. Hope was the hallmark of his childhood. Hope that loved ones lost in the genocide
have a powerful ally representing our common interests and our common heritage in the heart of the Middle East. And this I gained all from my father. Remember, for 19 years between the establishment of Israel in 1948 and 1967, the Arabs openly said, we're going to destroy you. We're just going to wipe you off the map.
Are to fear the backlash. The Biden administration isn't the only one that's divided. The Spanish government too is torn. Its social rights minister wants Madrid to suspend ties with Israel.
Today I have asked our partner, the Socialist Party.
One of those moments where the decisions we make today are going to determine the future for decades to come. That's what I'd like to talk with you about tonight. Earlier this morning I returned from Israel. They tell me I'm the first.
Today, when it comes to innocent, ordinary Palestinians. Earlier we told you about Biden and his quote-unquote blunt talks. How he's been trying to get humanitarian aid to Gaza. Turns out Russia is doing the same. Listen in.
According to the order of the President and the government of the Russian Federation, humanitarian aid is being provided to the residents of the Gaza Strip. Aviation of the Russian Emergency Ministry will deliver 27 tons of food products. Humanitarian aid will be handed over to representatives of the Red Crescent Society for delivery to the residents of the Gaza Strip.
There is one party to blame for the current mess, and that is Hamas. As we keep saying, Hamas is not Palestine. Both the US and Russia agree on this. Both powers want to protect the innocent Palestinians. But even here, in a rare moment of consensus, they cannot agree on how to do it. So instead of coming together, Washington and Moscow are now fighting it out. Their latest battleground is the graveyard of the diplomatic process, the United Nations Security Council. Russia wanted to pass a resolution on Monday to bring about a humanitarian ceasefire, a pause in the constant bombardment, so that ordinary Palestinians could flee North Gaza, so that they could go south and receive aid in peace. After all, what good is an aid truck that's been obliterated? But what happened to this Russian resolution? I'm sure you've guessed it. It got shot down. The Russians had a few choice words to share about that.
We believe that today's vote in the Security Council is very demonstrative. It clearly shows who are in favor of a truce to stop indiscriminate bombing and the provision of humanitarian assistance, and who is still in favor of blocking a single common message from the Security Council for purely selfish interests and political interests.
Passing anything through the Security Council is a task. The UNSC has 15 members, United Nations Security Council, there are 15 members. It includes 5 permanent members, the US, the UK, France, China and Russia. For any resolution to pass, there are several hoops that one must jump. First of all, it needs 9 votes in favor. What happens if no one votes against a resolution? There is no guarantee that it will pass. If you have 8 yes votes and 7 abstentions, your resolution will fail. So you can block something without actually saying no, just abstain. And if you want to get something passed, first get 9 yes votes. That's the first hurdle, 9 yes votes. A hurdle that Russia could not overcome on Monday. Here's what it got: 5 votes in favor, 4 votes against, and 6 abstentions. But not getting enough votes is not the biggest hurdle really. It's the veto power. The permanent members have it. only the 5 of them. Reminds you of George Orwell's book Animal Farm. This is one of its famous lines: everyone is equal, but some more equal than others. Nothing quite captures this dire. If Western aid to Kiev stops, so will the war. He said it wouldn't last a week. And the comments may hit a nerve because the US has halted more funding to Ukraine. Kiev's biggest backer is not officially allowed to send more aid for the next 40-odd days at least. No American aid. Does this mean Putin's predictions will come true? Well, Biden and his European allies say they won't. They say that nothing will change in their support for Ukraine. But Zelensky will be nervous. And he's not the only one who's nervous. On the other side of the world, someone else is watching all of this very closely. Taiwan. Taiwan's situation mirrors that of Ukraine. And America's domestic politics blocking funds will have raised alarms there. It throws up the question, can Taiwan rely on America if China invades? Here's our report.
If one just stops it, it will all die in a week. The same applies to the defense system. Just imagine, the aid stops tomorrow. It will live only for a week, when they run out of ammo.
So, the situation with the United States is dangerous.
It does worry me, but I know there are a majority of members of the House and Senate in both parties who have. I'm going to be announcing very shortly a major speech I'm going to make on this issue, and why it's critically important for the United States and our allies that we keep our commitment.
That is the latest round of developments in the Ukraine war in a nutshell. Putin says Ukraine won't last a week without aid. Zelensky is worried about the political situation in the US, and Biden is scrambling to find new ways to fund Kyiv. The US president is preparing a big speech to convince his country to send more money. He's also looking at alternative means of funding, like using State Department grants. American officials reportedly think that Ukraine will falter if it doesn't get aid in a few weeks. It's a precarious future. In the Pacific, another state with a dangerous neighbor is keenly watching all this unfold: Taiwan.
When the war started, many people, just like the people here in Taiwan, are looking at the war taking place in front of them. They are watching the videos of the war destructions and atrocities of this democracy called Ukraine. And then they look around and say, where is the next possible target of an authoritarian expansionism? And then they realize that Taiwan might be the next one. And they look at the Chinese track record of threatening Taiwan.
Taiwan is self-governed, and it wants to stay that way. China, however, wants the island in its grasp. In recent years, it has become increasingly aggressive around the Taiwan Strait. Beijing also refuses to rule out a military invasion to achieve what it calls reunification. So for Taiwan, the war in...
Why? If you ask the president, it's all technical. The money for this construction, a lot more than just a foot. He is building 32 kilometers of the same border wall. That's right, Biden is building Trump's wall. The question is why? If you ask the president, it's all technical. The money for this construction had been approved in 2019. Donald Trump was president then. Biden asked the Congress to channel this money elsewhere, but the Congress said no. So legally, Biden had to build the wall. Listen to his defense.
I tried to get them to reappropriate, to redirect that money. They didn't, they wouldn't. And in the meantime, there's nothing under the law other than they have to use the money for what it was appropriated. I can't stop that.
Do you believe the border wall works?
No.
So Biden doesn't believe the wall will work, but he is building 32 kilometers of it anyway. That's American politics for you. It's amazing, really. Everything that goes wrong is the Congress's fault. Abortion rights, gun violence.
And for the unequivocal support you have given Israel during these trying times, support that reflects the overwhelming will of the American people. I've seen your support every day in the depth and breadth of cooperation that we have had since the beginning of this war. A level of cooperation that is truly unprecedented in the history of the great alliance between our two nations. We see that support and your steadfast commitment to provide Israel with the tools we need to defend ourselves The moral clarity that you have demonstrated from the moment Israel was attacked, to back up those words with action. But above all, Mr. President, the world sees that